What if the most loving thing you could do for your clients was to stop saying yes to everything? In today's episode, Suzanne Culberg shares one of her business boundaries that genuinely shocked me and how it not only strengthened her offers, but also saved her sanity with zero guilt. Welcome to the Soulful Sales Show, where we talk about believing in the value of your offers, getting them in front of your right people, and selling more of what you do in your unique way. Hi, and welcome back to another episode of the Soulful Sales Show. So, today I'm chatting with Suzanne Culberg all about boundaries and people pleasing, but potentially not in the way that you've heard it talked about before. I am so excited to bring Suzanne to the podcast. She spoke at my Mess of Success Summit earlier this year. She brought such a great energy to the summit, and what she had to say about boundaries was such a hit with attendees. Just a quick side note, speaking of summits, by the way, my Aligned AI Summit is open for registration now at the time of this episode release. I'm going to tell you more about that soon, but for now, head to alignedAIsummit.com to get your free ticket and see the super juicy speakers and presentations. Okay, back to this episode. Let me tell you a bit more about Suzanne. She is an intuitive truth teller, professional boundary slayer, and the voice behind I Know Things, a suite of real, raw readings for women who are tired of putting themselves last. A former coach, Suzanne now helps people pleasers detox from external validation, reclaim their energy, and say no without spiraling into guilt, shame, or second guessing. She's known for her quick wit, deep insight, and ability to read your energy like it's subtitled, then call it out with love, sass, and zero sugarcoating. In this interview, we talk about recognizing the quiet ways that our boundaries can slip, why saying no can sometimes be the most generous thing you do, and how to create limits that feel both loving and liberating. Plus, the very juicy boundary around actually getting paid for the work that you do. So enjoy. Welcome, Suzanne. I am so excited to have a conversation with you for the podcast. And I'm going to dive straight in to the juicy questions, starting with, can you tell us what your life and business was like before you became the boundaries queen? Because you are the boundaries queen, right?
Oh, that's an excellent question. My business, I'd say, was non-existent. It was an expensive hobby, let's be honest. It cost more than I made. And it was kind of like, I'll never say I'm a trophy wife because my husband doesn't earn enough, though I reckon I could totally do that, but I'm not really into getting my hair and nails done, but I'd spend it on books, hands down. But all this to say, I spent way more on it than I made in hopes that, once I reached the magical place, like I had nailed that webinar or nailed that training or gone viral, then I'd be set. So that was that. And my personal life, I just felt like a doormat. Like it would be like, Suze will do it. I organized my sister's surprise birthday from interstate. And it's so hard to do, like ringing vendors and organizing flowers and colors and this and that. And then at the end of it, all I got was, you got my favorite color wrong. Because I did everything in purple and she actually likes pink. I was like, I've got three sisters, damn. And then I felt guilty about it. I wasn't like, today, if I did something like that for someone and the only thing they said to me was I got their favorite color wrong, I'd be like, we have a whole other situation happening. So yeah, I just felt guilty all the time and I took on way too much.
I know that a lot of the people I work with, including myself, resonate with that sense of feeling guilty about literally everything sometimes. What shifted for you? Like what was the turning point when you're like, I have to make a change, and how did you start that in motion?
I've been asked that question a lot. And there isn't one thing. Like, sometimes people say that was the pivotal moment or that was the straw that broke the camel's back. And there have been times in my life where there've been pivotal moments. For my business and my life, I can't think of one in particular, but some of the ones that really stood out. So when my daughter is now just turned 12, where's that time gone? When she was a baby, I had like a mums group, which I assume a lot of new mums go to. You have your babies around the same time, you meet in the park, you once a week or so. And I met this woman there. She didn't have a car and she lived near me and she walked down to the groceries supermarket and it was about 2-3 Ks, so a fair distance, pushing her kid in the pram and then pushing him back tied with all the groceries tied over because, no car. And anyway, I was like, how about I pick you up? and take you to do the grocery shopping, because I do the grocery shopping and then you can put your stuff in the boot. I don't know, in the UK, do you guys call it the boot like we do, or trunk like
Yeah.
America?
Food.
And so she'd tie her bags up. So we knew they were hers, they were mine. It was great. Once a week, it was fantastic. Then it became midweek. Oh, Suze, I'm out of nappies. I'm out of milk. Can you take me to the shop? Oh, I've run out of script. Then it became every second day. Then it became basically every day. Then her in-laws were visiting. Can you drive to the airport and get them? And you might be like, oh, Ruth, Suze, don't be such a cow. The airport is over an hour from my place, and they were doing a red eye. So like a 6 a.m. flight. And I'm not a real confident driver. Like I drive around my suburb. But anyway, all this to say, all these things I was doing for this woman. And I think this is the thing with people pleasing. When you look back, you're like, oh, I was doing everything. But it doesn't start like that. She didn't start with, hey, do my groceries every single day and be my concierge. So anyway, one day we're at one of these mum group meetings, and we're in they had like a public toilet with the little stalls, and I'm on the toilet and she's at the sink with someone else, and someone invites her to something. And they're like, would you like to come to this? Oh, sorry, I forgot you don't have a car. And she said, oh, Suze will take me. She's my little bitch. And I heard that in the toilet stall. And the saying, the truth hurts, it stung. Like, I'd like to say I busted out of the door and whatever, but I was like, I had nothing because I was her little bitch. And it was like, I wasn't valued or seen as a friend or appreciated. I'm not saying you have to like massage my feet and whatever, but it was like, holy cow, what a way to know somebody doesn't value you, by them saying, oh yeah, they're my little bitch. Like, no. So that was when I was like, something's got to change.
Oh my goodness. I mean, what a blunt way of hearing that, but also kind of a good thing in a way to like hearing that truth. How was this playing out in your business? How was the same kind of patterns showing up when you were working with clients or selling your offers? What was going on there?
People canceling last minute, people no showing and then expecting to reschedule and then rescheduling and then no showing again. I had one person book a session with me, then ask for a refund because they didn't realize it wasn't face to face. And I was like, I haven't even told you where I lived. How could you think it was face to face? And it was always on me. Oh, I didn't make it clearly. I didn't say the session was on Zoom. I didn't say this. I didn't say that. And it was incredible. Like, I had this business coach I was working with as a client, and I bought 10 or 20 sessions. I can't remember how many. And she said to me, hey, you're running a webinar. Would you like me to come? I was like, oh, that'd be great. And then when we're at the end of our thing, I'm like, I've got one more session, and we're arguing back and forth. And she's like, no, I came to your webinar. I'm like, you didn't say to me, would you like me to come to your webinar in place of a session? Like, so if she'd said that, I'll be like, no, I don't need a friend. There's so much love bombing, and, I'll be everything to you. And obviously when you stop working with somebody, your relationship changes. I get that. But sometimes people are responding to every single one of your emails, being on everything of yours, and you're kind of getting this false sense of, I'm doing really, really well. But like, they're not actually your ideal client, and they're not helping you because it's not moving the needle forward if they're not going to work with you. So it's just like so many examples of people who, just took advantage or were only interested in me when I was paying them.
And were you conscious of why you were? Because let's bring it back to, yes, there's people taking advantage, but you also are responsible for the way that you respond.
100%.
Were you
Yes.
conscious of why you were allowing this kind of behavior in your business? Like, were you doing it for a reason? Was there a fear behind it?
I think for people I was hiring who weren't clear on what I was getting, and I was just like, okay, that's fine. Like, there was one course I bought. It was funny. I don't know if anyone else has ever done this, but you buy something and then you get on the session. They're like, what do you want to do? And you're like, what was on the sales page? You know what I mean? It's kind of like, I've hired you for this. And then you're kind of like, what do you want to chat about? But like, I guess it was kind of, I was easily swayed by a really good pitch or a really good testimonial or something like that. And I thought that I just needed to like pay to play. And with people who were working with me, I had a fear that if I held the boundary, like if it's like, if you don't turn up for your session, it's forfeit, then they'd either not work with me again or badmouth me or give me a bad review. And it's funny, I've had people do that. Like recently I had someone pitch to come on my podcast and I said no. And they're like, if you don't let me on your show, I'm going to give you a 1-star review. And I thought, you're going to hold me over a barrel? I'm like, good luck. I just thought that was hilarious. that's not going to fly now. But past me, I was kind of like, I guess, trying to buy approval and thinking that, you got to kiss a lot of frogs, as the saying goes, and, it will get better. And it's like, what you allow will continue. It doesn't get better. So I didn't have the wherewithal to say, actually, I'm contributing to this by allowing it.
I think that this approval piece is huge and it runs so deep, right? And I think sometimes it can be disguised, at least for me, as like, I want to do the best job I can do for my clients. I want to be available to them. I want to help them when they're going through something hard and all of this. Um, but at the heart of it is really like, I'm afraid what's going to happen if I say, you know what, that session is forfeit now because you didn't show up for it or you didn't tell me far enough in advance. So, what did happen when you started making changes? What was there a specific change that you can give us as an example of something that really supported you?
So originally I coached one-to-one, and then I got booked out, like what a problem to have. So then I launched a group program, and that hamstrung my business because a lot of the people who were working with me one-to-one moved into the group program because it was cheaper. And I kind of, in honesty, I kind of marketed it as a cheaper way to work with me. Like, I wasn't clear on the value distinction between one-to-one and my group. So I will own my place in that. Like if someone's like, you could pay me, I think at the time I was $350 a month for one-to-one, which is still super cheap now. you know, and the membership when I launched it was 97 for 3 months. So basically you could pay 10% of the price and it looked kind of on the outside like the same thing. So I still responded to the emails. I still answered their stuff privately, even though we're in the group. I still answered their DMs. Like I did all of that. It's on me. It's not on them. And then I'm so fortunate. I've always been upfront. My husband is very well paid. As I said, not quite housewife, trophy wife thing, but enough for our family to be taken care of. So I have leeway to have flexibility that I know a lot of people don't have. So I just want to name the privilege there. So we weren't like on the street or at dire straits, but had my business been in charge of my kids, that would have been a moment where we would have had to close up shop, because when you go from 17 people paying you $350 a month to 15 of them jumping into the membership and paying you 97 for 3 months, you know, just do the math. It's not great. And then I had 35 other people jump into that membership as well. So it was a hit for that thing, but then nothing else for 2 more months. Anyway, all this to say, I realized that this was me. So I did a Facebook Live because my group was housed in Facebook. And I said 3 words, which I recommend everyone should have in their boundary arsenal: up until now. Because then you're owning your place in it. Up until now, this is how this has gone down. And then from here forth. So I said, up until now, I've answered DMs, I've answered emails, I've coached privately. I named all the things. And I'm like, and I do offer one-to-one coaching, but this is not this. This is a group program. So from here on forward, everything is done in the group. I don't want to have, like, I know sometimes people have anonymous and stuff. I'm not here for that. That's, if you want private, that's what the one-to-one is. So it's a clear differentiator. And there was a few other things about like when people's payments weren't coming through and stuff like that. So I was really, really clear. And then if you don't do this, I'll just tag you in this video, like, because I don't know if anyone else has had this, but you've ever had a client who sends you a DM and then enter, and sends you a DM and enter, and you might be eating dinner or playing with your kids or whatever, and you come back and you have 17 unread messages from this person. And by the time you get to message 17, it's disjointed from message 1 and 2, and you're just like, oh my goodness. I'm like, this is not happening from here on out. And I'm not calling anyone out in particular. When I posted that video, Ruth, what was the most fascinating thing was there was 50 people in the group. As I said, 15 had been prior one-on-ones. There was like 2 who were problem children, if you're going to call it that. Like they were the people it was like directed at, but I want it to go across the board. 10 sent me a long-winded email. I am so sorry. I apologize. They hadn't done anything. I was like, oh my goodness. But the 2 who were the problem ones saw red. Like everything that you imagine, oh my God, is going to happen, happened. So much so that I had to block both of them. And it was very unpleasant. And I offered them a pro rata refund, yes, for a 3-month thing that we were 2.5 months into. But it was just kind of like, yeah, I'm out. And I haven't turned back. I have got so many boundaries in so many places in my business now, and I just love it.
Thank you for sharing that specific example. I think that a lot of people listening would be really scared to implement something like that. And I kind of love, although it was not a nice situation for you at the time, but I kind of love that there was a bit of pushback because you dealt with it and you're still super happy that you made this decision. So, can you share with us, like, what changed in your business or in your mind or in any way after you implement this, despite the fact that some people were angry?
Well, actually, there's one other story to add on to that. One of the people who flipped their lid, and as I said, I blocked them 6 ways to Sunday. 6 months later, I got a handwritten letter in the post because my address is publicly available. And when I saw the return thing, I must be honest, it took me about 2 months before I could open it. And it was the most heartfelt apology I have ever read. They were like, I was very unreasonable. I was very unfair. I apologize. And then I had to sit with that for a little while because although I received that and I was really appreciative, I wasn't opening the door because once somebody, I'm an INFJ, if anyone knows the door slam thing, when somebody, I don't, I'm very compassionate, but I'm forgiving, but I'm not opening up for that again because, if I say the one wrong thing, it sets you off, you're going to lose it with me. But I just wrote back, I actually sent them an email and said, I appreciate that. Thank you. I wish you well. And yeah, I didn't hear from them again. Feels good. But I just think sometimes we can't be responsible for other people's response. And whatever they're responding to, I think it often isn't really us. It's we're a safe place where in past they haven't been able to have this. So, sometimes people do things that they, in hindsight, are apologetic about. But sorry, I lost your question in that.
Thank you for sharing that. And yeah, really interesting how that went. My question was, what was it? Like,
Was it about
despite the
fear
fact,
of doing that?
despite the fact that there was the pushback, for the benefit of anyone listening who's like, yeah, okay, but I am afraid, like, what happened next? Like, how did this change things for the better for you?
People, when you start to set boundaries, people who don't yet know you come into your life and don't know any other version of you. So they're the easiest people to set boundaries with, and your business will never be as small as it is right now. So when you start to set the boundaries, the people who are going to have the pushback are the people currently in it. The brand new people, like, think about it. If, say, it's a horrible example, but you have something wrong with you and you need to see a specialist, like you're like a medical specialist. I don't know what it's like in the UK, but I can tell you in Australia, you ring up and you might get into someone within 6 months, maybe, and they say Thursday at 2 p.m. and you're like, I'll take it. And it
Mhm.
doesn't matter what else you have on, you will rearrange your life to see that person. And when you treat your business with that same energy, like, I don't know about you, but when I go onto someone's booking link and I see 5 days a week from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. they're available, my first thing is, I don't think they're very good because they're just so available. Like, do you know what I mean? Whereas when you're like, when I first started cutting my diary hours down to be quite minimal, in the back of my mind, I was like, no one's going to book me. But now it's like, and sometimes people will ask, actually, I'm in the UK, that time doesn't really work. Do you have anything else open? And then we can discuss. Whereas when you just open everything all the time, people take advantage. Like, I remember I had somebody message me once on New Year's Eve and they wanted to talk to me on New Year's Day. So I made a time with them. 2019, 7 a.m., New Year's Day. I'm on Zoom. I don't drink. I'm a teetotaler. Guess what? They didn't show. Are you surprised? Current me isn't. So an emergency on the person's part doesn't make an emergency on yours. If you're cutting down your available hours and you think no one's going to book you, it's like, chances are, if you're so available, they're going to not book you because they think you're either not very good, or you are just too available. And if they really want to see you sooner, are you someone who wants to work with someone who's desperate and urgent and emergent and probably isn't going to actually take any action anyway, because by the time tomorrow comes, they've forgotten about it?
Yes, exactly. I have thought the exact same thing about when I go to book someone and they have all the appointments available. Personally, I cannot work like that. I used to be probably a bit more like that. And then I had this epiphany that if I have an appointment here and then a few hours in between and then an appointment at the end of the day, I will just waste the entire day. Like waiting for the first appointment, waiting for the second one, decompressing. I will waste the entire day and I cannot work like that. And I have worked with clients. I mean, the two of us doing this interview are very like on opposite sides of the world, different time zones. I've worked with clients all around the world. Most of the time they make it work, but I'm always open to having that conversation if the time zone really is an issue. And it works so much better for me, like so much better. I am a more, I don't know, like rested and grounded, better at my work when I don't make my whole week available for bookings. In fact, I make almost none of it available deliberately.
My podcast now is I only record on Tuesdays. That's the only day of the week I record, and that's the only day it's open. And sometimes people are like, oh, well, I only want to guest on Saturdays. Cool. You're not coming on my show then. Do you know what I mean? This is my show. You're just guesting on it. And it's like, this is my business. You get to come into it or not. And I think sometimes when you set that dynamic, that power dynamic with your client from day one, I want to see you at this time and I want to do this. And oh, I'm going to turn up late. Like my son has, he's graduated now, but he used to do occupational therapy. And we'd have to haul ass to get there by 4 p.m. because he finishes school at 3 p.m. and we live in Sydney. And if anyone knows Sydney, the traffic can be. And the number of times I'd get there and she would be running late because the session behind us ran late. And I just had to say to her one day, I'm like, you might fire me as a client for this, but I got to say, their inability to get to their appointment on time is not my problem. They can book another time because by you going over with them, going over with me, making the rest of my day go, it's like it's the same with my clients. If they come to a session late, they're most welcome to, but it still finishes on the hour or on the time thing because I got other things to do. And even if I don't, that's my life. And like I don't wait anymore. Like I used to wait and wait and wait. Now I wait 5 minutes and they know that. And I think the thing with boundaries that people don't really get is when you communicate it so the person knows, hey, if I'm more than 5 minutes late, let them know, let Suze know I'm running late. Like if they say I'm going to be 15 minutes, cool, I can read a book or have some water or whatever. Like they let me know. And also like this is what will happen. This is the consequence. I think we don't have the consequence. Like I had a person come on my show yesterday, was Tuesday, maybe it's the day before now, but anyway, they messaged me. They're supposed to be on at 12 p.m. At 11:30, they're like, I can't reschedule. I've got something come up. And I'm like, yeah, you can't reschedule because it's less than 24 hours. You don't message me 30 minutes before and tell me you can't come. No.
And what you said is having a consequence because I've had this with clients before and they would reschedule last minute. And, you know, these are clients I love and I love working with them. And I'm like, oh, it's okay because I love working with them. And I was like, hang on a minute, let's have a conversation about this. And I spoke to them about it. I was like, what's going on? Like, why are we rescheduling a lot? And we reined it in and it was good for them and it was good for me. But if you don't have those consequences, it becomes an expectation or a habit, you know? And
The
I
other
think
thing you can do, sorry to talk over you, but when you're new or not busy or not fully booked and you go over for a bit because you're being generous, you know, when does that become overgiving? Because as you start to book out, people are like, oh, Suzanne used to care for me, but she doesn't care now because she's a big name or whatever. It's like, I literally don't have the time because I have another client here. What you allow will continue. So sometimes I do extra and I'm upfront and generous about it and say, hey, I've got extra time today. So if we need to go over, we can. But not that that becomes the expectation that our 60-minute sessions become 90-minute sessions. The other thing that I haven't even talked about yet that really cost me was people used to have like a 6-month contract. So they get how many sessions, usually about 20, and then have 6 months. But I didn't enforce that. So sometimes people would not book their sessions, but they'd still get the Voxer and the email coaching. And 6 months became 12 months, became 18 months that I'm holding the space, I'm holding the container and I'm communicating with them, but they're not booking their sessions in. And I'm not saying people are being nefarious and trying to take advantage, though there are some people who do. But it's just kind of like, as you said, why aren't you booking your sessions? Let's discuss this because how we do one thing is how we do most things. If we're resistant here, we're likely resistant there. And let's unpack this and how powerful is that for them for the rest of their lives going forward, rather than you not being able to onboard new clients because you don't know how long Sally Sue's package is going to last. So now when people sign with me one-to-one, they get a contract, which they sign. And it says from the date of your first session, you have 6 months. Any left after that will be forfeit. Here's how I'll ensure that they're booked. Here's what you need to do to ensure that they're booked. It's clear, and clear is kind, as Brene Brown says.
love that. I would love to talk about this in relation to, I guess, self-belief, like confidence in the value of your work. So let's, that membership you started as an example, you had this turning point, you did that Facebook Live and you're like, right, I'm changing things. Up until now, I've done it this way. I'm doing it this way going forward. I'm not going to be in the DMs with you and answering personal questions and all of that. How did that shift things when I mean, maybe you didn't continue, I don't know if you continued to sell that
I
offer
did
because
that
like,
offer for 5 more years.
oh, okay, right.
I only closed it last year.
You had to cultivate the belief that you and your work is worth it after you remove this stuff that actually
Yes.
makes it better for everyone.
So that offer, when I launched it in 2019, was $30 a month. And I actually revamped it into a start together, finish together 10-week course that I sold for $1,200. So not only did the length and duration change, and then people just tended to rebuy it. So it was kind of a membership, but it wasn't, because I found, and this maybe it's just me, I'm highly sensitive, I'm introverted. When I join a group, I can kind of feel like they're all the cool kids and I'm the weird outsider, new kid over here. So when I did it cohort based, we all started together, we all finished together. Nobody kind of knew who was new and who wasn't, though you kind of got it after a bit. But it was kind of like I found that energy worked a lot better. And then there were times as I did price rises. So as I said, originally it was $90 for 3 months. And then I put it up to, I think, $300. And then I put it up to $650. And then I went to 1,000, and then I went to 1,200. And every time there were people who dropped away, there were people who were annoyed, there were people who told me I was a money grabber and all these things under the sun, because people are entitled to have their opinions. But even when less people were joining, I was still making more money. Not that I'm in it for the money, but I think what people don't know who aren't in business, or even people who are in business don't figure out, is how much time are you spending in this? Like, yes, this was a course or a membership, but the level of delivery in it was quite high, and I was adding more and people were, receiving more. So the price went up. My skills got better. So the price went up. And I had workbooks and I had all sorts of things I didn't have before. So I needed a team to create those things. So it's kind of like, what is the balance of this? Not just I'm putting the price up willy-nilly because I feel like it.
This brings me to something we were talking about before I hit record, which is valuing your boundaries around, or having boundaries around what you are willing to show up for in your business and what you are getting paid for and the type of clients you're willing to work with. I know you have lots of thoughts about this. Can you, I don't know, I don't even know where to start, but like, what's on your mind about this right now?
Well, 2024 and now we're in 2025 have been very interesting for online business in general, from what I've observed and from what's been in mine, and from what's happening globally and for the economy and like all sorts of things, and where people are spending their money on. And in my opinion, I don't claim to be an expert, but from what I've noticed is people still tend to spend their money on what I label infotainment, like Netflix subscription, and I'm not judging that. Like, sometimes the world's dark and shitty and you just need that light kind of hearted thing. I've found less people wanting to do the deep coaching. As I said, maybe this is just my business, but a few of my friends have been like this too. And I don't know if it's a global thing or what, but they still would buy like a one-off session or something. I'm a hypnotherapist. I'm a jack of all trades. I have a lot of certificates. I'm a hashtag lifelong learner. But the expectation that in one session, like the reason I don't have hypnotherapists ballooned anywhere is because some people who are like, do one session and you'll never smoke again, or do one session and you never bite your nails, or some ridiculous thing. But to answer your question, I found the taking the temperature or the pulse is, there's a lot of people going, I'm going to hire you, I really need you, I value this or whatever. But are they actually cha-ching? No. And I find it kind of frustrating. And not like I'm saying you have to pay me or you have to do this or whatever, but to be kind of like I don't do DMs. And one of the reasons is, like, I love email, but people I think are after like that emotional regulation. So if they send you a DM, let's talk about coaching, and you write back and this, they're feeling their nervous system calm, they're feeling a bit better, but are you actually getting any money? And what's the boundary between we're having a discussion about working together, or you're hiring me and onboarding, versus I'm just saying a few words, flowery words that make you feel better in the moment, but it's not actually moving anybody's needle forward.
So, what is this looking like in terms of your work at the moment? Is that okay to ask?
Yeah, sure. So at this stage, and I was telling Ruth before we hit record, so for everyone else, like I hate it when people say podcasters say that, but anyway, I'm breaking my own rules. Um, I'm seriously considering doing quite a big pivot in my business and releasing a lot of, the Nope Coaches coaching, because in terms of promoting it, talking about it, whatever, like I would still have it as in, if someone comes to me and is like, I'm ready, now's the time, let's go, and we have a conversation, 100%. But in terms of what I'm putting out there publicly and stuff, I have a membership, another membership, not the one we were talking about earlier. Like that one ended up closing in 2024. And this one, it actually started, funnily enough, as a dare from my VA. My VA at the time, like I've always been a little bit, I hesitate to say psychic because I don't wear a turban. Crushed purple velvet makes me want to die inside, and I've never owned a crystal ball. But anyway, I just tend to know things. My husband calls me Cassandra because I'll say something and everyone will be like, no, no, no. And then it will happen. And I'll be like, see. So anyway, my VA at the time said, why don't you do this as like a reading thing? And I said to her, who'd want to buy this? And she's like, seriously, I dare you. So I put together, it was in my membership that was open back then. And I did a Facebook Live and I was like, here's the thing. And I think I charged $50 because I'm like, $50 is $50. If you've heard the joke, if you know, you know. And I said, I've got 3 spots available. And I said, see you, done. And within 5 minutes, the 3 had been booked. So I did them one-to-one. I started with just my members. Then I went to my newsletter list, and originally it was a one-to-one offering that was $50, then $99, now $150, which is still available on my website. One-to-one has a whole different energy. But then I started doing it as a group. And I love it because tuning in as an energy healer, it's another thing I've done, another feather under my hat, is quite more tiring. Like I think, when you go coaching, people who are unfamiliar with coaching sometimes leave and go, you didn't tell me what to do. You just asked me a whole bunch of questions. And in my opinion, that's what a coach does. I'm not a mentor. I'm not a, what do you call it? Like where you go to someone and they teach you, like a mentor is like, I think they get them confused. It's like, that's what a coach does. They ask you lots of stuff. Not a therapist, but anyway, all this to say, I do it as a group thing. I started that in, I think, October last year. And then I started to make it like a bundle, and now it's a membership. So people can buy that as a membership. And each Monday morning I tune in, I record 20 minutes of whatever on earth comes up for me. Sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, can't believe I sent that. Like 9 times out of 10, I'll be like, someone's going to ask me for a refund. Real talk, haven't been asked for a refund yet, touch wood, but also I do have clearly on the sales page, there are no refunds. Like a horoscope, if it doesn't resonate this week, buy it next week, good luck. Like that's how honest I am. People still buy it. Like old B would die inside. She'd never say that.
And the vibe, very much when we were talking before I hit record, was I'm going to do the thing that people are paying me for and that feels good for me to do. And I am done with the people who want the quick fix, right?
100%, because setting a boundaries work is much like physical work for your body. You don't get fit going to the gym once. You don't go to the gym, look at the men or women curling the 20-kilo bicep curls and go, cool, I can do that now. You know that if you might not be able to even pick that up off the rack. So listening to one podcast or having one session with someone who gives you a couple of tips and then going, I'm going to be able to do this really successfully, chances are it's like you're going to have to you have to get your reps in. And that's when working with somebody and having somebody hold the space for you when it doesn't go well or when it does. Because real talk, most of the time you'll have this fear of the blow up, and it will be so few. Most people, like especially your partners and your kids, are like, oh, thank goodness, we've been waiting. Like they want this for you. People who love you, the clients who love you will come with you and they'll be championing you. And the people who fall away weren't meant for you anymore. And that's okay.
Mm. I love that pep talk. And it really, really what you were saying as well about, yeah, the people who want the quick fix and all of that. It's so easy when you have an online business to get caught in like, I need to market it the right way and I need to be effective and I need to make big promises, right? And I think we're doing everyone a disservice when we're not honest about the work that is involved, including ourselves. We're doing ourselves a disservice because the clients we attract are not the ones that ultimately are the right ones that we want to work with. So having boundaries around the way we talk about our work, around the way we deliver our work, around who we actually say yes to as a client, because we don't have to say yes to everyone. All of that stuff helps us to sell our offers to the right people and get better results, which helps us to then continue the work that we do.
And also, when you are honest about the amount of work it takes up front or something like that, yes, you'll scare away some people, but you won't scare away potential clients. Because imagine if I said, in one session with me, you'll never say yes when you mean no again, and blah, 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 blah. And then I didn't deliver. That's when you get people who are unhappy. But like on my website, I think it's the line I put there that my business coach at the time and I argued about, because they said that was the stupidest mistake I ever had. But it's the biggest feedback line I get. Somewhere or other it says, and you breathe a sigh of relief that this will take 1 to 3 years, not 1 to 3 months, because working with me is a long-term game. And my people know, like my people who work with me know that we're in it together. They don't feel like they're being abandoned or you didn't get there fast enough, so get out so I can bring the next person in. It's like, this is going to take as long as it takes, and I'm here the whole way. Whereas, you go to a webinar that tells you can get 6 figures in 6 days by doing this, and you do exactly what it says and you get nothing. You don't think to say to the person, was this legit? You say, what's wrong with me that I didn't get the results that everyone else got?
Yeah. Yeah. So true. So to anyone listening, wanting to impact wanting to implement their boundaries, maybe worrying about like, oh, I'm not making the sales I want anyway, let alone if I'm more strict about the way I do things or if I remove kind of support, what would you say to those people?
I'd say maybe the reason you're not making the sales you want anyway is because you don't have boundaries in place. Like, imagine, and also too, what have you got to lose if people aren't buying anyway? Like, it's really funny with the pivot that I was talking to you about before we hit record, and may have come out by the time this goes live. The people who are going to be annoyed about it, well, they weren't giving me money anyway, were they? Do you know what I mean? And the people who I bet you most people will be like, oh my gosh, yes, we need more of this. I think in the business world, especially, but in life, honesty, it might hurt, but I think the sting of honesty to me is always better than the lash of a lie. Like if someone asked me to do something recently and I said no, like I tried to be what you call polite and they kept pushing. And then they kept saying why. I was like, because I don't want to. And I could see the sting and I could see the hurt. And I said, look, I love you and I always want to be honest. And I don't want to do something that I don't want to just because it makes you happy. There are other people that you could ask. And their reaction to that is on them, because why should I do something that I don't want to do when there's 8 billion people in this world and they could find someone else?
I feel like that was the pep talk we all needed. Thank you, Suzanne. So I'm going to ask you 3 quick fire questions before we wrap up. The first one is, beyond financial success, what impact do you want to have in the world through your work?
I want people to be more honest, because if people aren't going to like me, I'd rather they not like me rather than not like the facade I put up. Like honesty, it reminds me, have you ever seen that job interview meme? Like, what's your weakness? Honesty. I don't think honesty is a weakness. I don't give a fuck what you think. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like that. It's like when you can say to someone, I love you, but I don't want to do that, and let them make what they mean of that. I think the world is a lot more moving forward than us doing something for the sake of someone else's feelings that we don't want to do anyway, and then getting resentful and they don't reciprocate it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, question 2. If you could give a message of encouragement to past you earlier in your business, what would you say?
My mind immediately goes to like all these things, that corners she could cut or things. It's like, you need to go through these things to become the version of you that you are. So it's kind of like, I went to medical school that I never would have done woo-woo readings. Like, so all these things that I did is what became, that led you to who you are now. So it's like, yeah, some of the stuff's suboptimal, but you'll be right.
Oh, I love it. And finally, what does soulful selling mean to you?
There's a lot of trust involved. It doesn't mean a bright, shiny sales. It used to mean if I could just get the words right, if I could just not convince as in like, ho, 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 but as in like, I used to put so much pressure on myself to say it right. And now it's like trust that the people who are meant for me will find me. Somehow we'll cross paths. And, my level of like Parcel Tongue, if you're a Harry Potter fan or whatever, or my level of thing will meet their level of weird and somehow we'll move forward. So just to follow my intuition rather than spend so long trying to perfect something that chances are people aren't reading anyway.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Suzanne. And if you want to find out more about Suzanne and her work, you can find her at suzanneculberg.com. She's also on Facebook and Instagram, and you can try out one of her readings at suzanneculberg.com/group-reading. I have also linked to her 2 email newsletters when she announced her big business boundary shift in the show notes, and you can subscribe to her email newsletters at suzanneculberg.com/newsletter. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Soulful Sales. If you have a moment to rate and review, know that it really does make a difference. And if you'd like to carry on the conversation, then you can connect with me on Instagram at Ruth Poundwhite, sign up to my newsletter at ruthpoundwhite.com/newsletter, or my personal favorite, join me inside the low ticket membership at ruthpoundwhite.com/membership. And keep doing what you're doing because your work really does matter.